Doom 2016 actually borrowed a lot of ideas from the original Quake games. Doom 2016 had arenas filled with jump pads, the power-ups were similar, and some were even brought back from Quake, like quad damage. And Doom Eternal borrowed even more from the Quake franchise, with the makers transforming eventually into massive Cthulhu monsters like what we saw in Urdak. The demonic barge on Hell on Earth is very similar to something we'd see in Quake 1, for instance, with the medieval aesthetic, and more concepts were borrowed from Quake. The stone imps obviously bear a resemblance to the stone statues in one of the original Quake expansions. The idea of a hammer as a weapon is another concept that has been borrowed from Quake, the expansion pack Scourge of Armagon, and there is also slipgates mentioned in these reboot Doom games, stuff like that, just the little stuff, the little references to Quake. So that begs the question, when is another Quake game going to come out? Now I know that Quake is a multiplayer id Software franchise at this point, and id Software right now kind of has these 3, or 4 if you count Wolfenstein, these 3 to 4 properties that serve very different functions. So obviously Doom is their mainline series, it's the bread and butter of id Software, and it's very linear, very single-player focused shooting. And then we have Rage, which is another first-person shooter, but it's set in the open world. So you have single-player linear Doom, you have single-player open world Rage, and then you have Quake. And Quake is kind of a mess at the moment. I mean, we have Quake Champions, but that's it. We have no single-player modern Quake game, and that sucks, and I feel like that needs to change. Now I know that I said that the Doom reboot games have borrowed ideas from Quake, and while I don't see a new Quake game happening anytime soon, I want to talk about how they could remake or reboot the franchise. First of all, I would tie it into the Doom universe. I mean, the makers transforming into Cthulhu monsters, I mean, that's no accident. I feel like that's a direct reference to, well, obviously Lovecraft, right? But also Quake, because Quake was influenced by many things, basically. It was a hodgepodge of all these ideas, similar to Doom, but I don't think there was any cohesion with Quake. Everyone just chipped in and threw shit together to see what sticks. It still has Cthulhu monsters in it, and that's what the makers transform into, basically. So I think having a connection to Doom Eternal and the Doom series would be a good idea. Just finally bridge those two franchises and make them into one. Not literally, like, you know, still have Doom and Quake as separate franchises, but in terms of a storyline, make them connected. I mean, Doom has a multiverse, so anything is possible. They could just say, oh, Quake is in another universe, and that's it. They're connected, but they are also separate. I like that idea of just bridging the two franchises together, storyline-wise. And if there was a new Quake game, what the fuck would the story be? So we have Quake 1, this Lovecraftian type game, and then we have Quake 2 that leans into science fiction and tech bases, and that also ties into Quake 4, how Quake 4 is a direct continuation of Quake 2's storyline with the Strogg. But anyway, I feel like continuing on from the Quake 1 storyline would be great, or at least following in its footsteps. If we get a Quake 1 remake, I feel like that would be almost ideal, but I kinda at the same time want a brand new Quake game. I don't care if it really borrows ideas or is a direct continuation, I don't really mind. All I want from a new single-player Quake game is for it to be, well, one single player first and foremost. I want to explore this universe and I want to play it single player. I don't really care about multiplayer that much. And also, I want it set in the Quake 1 universe. The Cthulhu monsters and the medieval gothic architecture, I think it's really interesting and I love it. And I want that to be explored in a brand new video game. That would be great. And if Bethesda really wants, well, if Microsoft really wants, you can make it an exclusive to Xbox and PC. You know, I will buy it on PC anyway. Even though I'm a PS4 player, if that's what needs to be done to make a Quake 1 remake or a game or a new game in the Quake 1 universe, so be it. I just want to see it happen. As for the combats, I'm not sure. I will leave that up to you guys. Those are my sort of spitball ideas for a new Quake game. I really hope id Software make a single-player Quake game. I mean, Hugo has alluded to, you know, Cthulhu monsters, you know, especially in the Yodak mission, you know, the giant one underwater. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome imagery, but he has alluded to having Cthulhu elements in future Doom games and stuff, and I just feel like it would be a shame not to have a new Quake game as well. I think the most likely outcome in all of this is that there's no new single-player Quake game. They'll stick to Quake Champions, and that they'll incorporate, you know, a lot of Quake elements into the next Doom game, whenever that's going to come out. I feel like that's the most likely scenario, and yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. Single-player Quake game, I fucking want it. Do you guys want it too? Let me know in the comments. Of course you fucking do. It's Quake. Quake 1 is one of the best fucking video games, one of the best first-person shooters ever made. So yes, you want it remade, or you want a new game set in that universe. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.